That's right, everyone. We hit 2500 score. Meaning, of course, now that we have the Keystone Hero achievement now on our Brewmaster Monk. So yeah, that's I managed to do it in like what 4 or 5 resets, which I think is pretty fast, which kind of just shows off that like this season is notoriously being like faster than other seasons. But it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So let's go through this like reset right here. So of course we start off with getting, honestly, the weekly quest that I've been waiting on for a very long time, the one where you have to like get 4 mythic dungeons completed, and then you get like heroic raid gear. In our vault this week, nothing of interest whatsoever, really disappointing. So we ended up just getting the tokens so we can get the socket. At the end game here, the sockets become actually really important and can give like a pretty good stat attribution overall. But for now, like right here and also for this challenge, honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. So yeah, we left off with just around like 2300, a little bit in the middle there, and do actually have some score that we can go after. I of course decided to target Thrones of Tides because I have timed that on 11, so I went in here on a 15. Now, one thing I've been really like focused on for this reset has been my aggro problem. So in my last video, I actually asked you guys whether or not like that last situation with the whole mage was him or like my fault, or like because I honestly knew it was my fault. What like really went wrong there is basically just that because of like changing my talent, switching up my key binding, all of my mind or my like focus went on to actually hitting the right buttons, which I actually also weren't even doing. So a lot of that's like been on my fault, and it's all about just getting used to the new key binding. One thing I do want to mention now that like this challenge here is coming to an end, but we'll talk more about that later, what that means. But one thing I'm gonna miss about the Brewmaster here is just being spinning to win here, using spinning crane to just completely neutralize the threat that these like blobs do on your entire party. It's incredible how much control and just how easy this fight actually just become. You can completely carry it. But yeah, I'm just right now just focusing on the aggro, focusing on getting the key binding down on my rotation now that I've changed my talents up a little bit. I will also change my talents up even furthermore in this video because you Brewmaster mains just keeps on coming with all these great suggestions, and I have to try them out. But yeah, it's mainly just been focusing on that, and because I'm actually really happy that I changed to this current build now, where I just have a bunch of cooldown reduction on my brews, because honestly, I've been pushing a lot of like higher up keys, and even going into a 21 later in this reset, and I have been, it's been very useful to have this extra like defensive. But for the talent build that I'm rocking like right now, the one that I have from like the previous video, it's honestly a little bit too low damage. I need to add more damage into the talent tree that I'm also gonna do later in this video. But yeah, that's also been a huge struggle with the aggro thing, that I simply did too little damage. I couldn't keep up with my DPSs, which is really not that great. And if you can't like get more damage out of the rotation, which at the end I didn't really felt like I could, then you need to look at the talents and other like attributes here to pump up your damage, because I know that most people probably don't like consider tank damage to be hugely important, but it really is. It can make a difference, not only just for the aggro of course, but yeah, it can definitely make a difference overall in like timing and stuff like that. Talking about damage and this run right away, it honestly went by pretty fine. We do have, you can see at the time, we did spend a lot of time, and we have what like comes to like a wipe. But honestly, our damage here was quite low if I remember correctly, because damage meters. But we do actually end up wiping on the last boss here, because these orbs are just, sorry, not orbs, these pools right here are just getting scattered everywhere around the boss, which is a huge no-go, because that means that I can't tank it, because I keep getting like this poison debuff on me that's just gonna keep intaking and doing more and more damage. And yeah, so it's gonna be a wipe. Make sure if you're watching this and you're playing a DPS, make sure that you just always stay stacked, stay close to each other, get the pools as close to you can as each other, because it makes it so much easier to cleanse them with the water that's gonna come. So basically this boss is all about placement, right? But yeah, we went there again, and you know, we cleared it. And for some reason, the score here just completely deselects itself or like goes away. But I believe I got like around 20 score from that, sitting us at 23.55, which is great. Yeah, it's getting there now. Where you like the higher you went up in score, the less points you are going to get, and it's going to take a little bit less. More time. I'm sorry. But that's just the nature of the beast. When you go like above 3k, it becomes this whole like, you know, that you got 1 to 8 points or something like that per dungeon. It can be kind of like, you know, nuisance, and it's gonna take a lot of time to push up that far if you are pushing and watching this. Going into an 18 Waycrest Manor here. Also one of my lower keys, if I remember correctly. Here is like, you know, the notorious where everything went wrong the last video I made. So of course I make sure that the witch is being taken care of, that she doesn't have time to like, you know, spawn in and slap one of my DPSers. And then the rest of it, honestly, I just make sure to focus on my on the interrupting these guardians right here. I believe they're called the one that throws down the defensive debuff that you can actually, if you're playing a blood elf, it's something I figured out, you can use the racial to remove it, so they don't have the damage reduction anymore. I don't remember if I mentioned this also on the first boss here, the witch bosses. If you're playing a tank, basically if you're playing actually whatever you're playing, but what you want to do here is to like minimize how much group damage is actually going out. You want to interrupt all the witches that are not focusing on the tank. Because the one that's like, the skull is actually on, the one that has the little orb, or like whatever it's called, the one that actually takes damage, they will always target the tank with their like, you know, the bolts, the shadow bolts or death bolts or whatever it's called. And so the two other witches will basically just target all the other players. And it honestly doesn't really matter because there's not much other damage going on. The other time you need to be just a little bit careful is right here with this boss, where, you know, because every boss have their own little debuff, where she has the 50% healing reduction. That's the only boss where you really have to like just not worry, but just be a little bit cautious about it. But yeah, else you just have to interrupt all the others. Oh, and this is like the best feeling ever. Like when this patrol just completely perfectly lines up to this pull, it makes it so incredibly like amazing. It's like one of the best feelings like of all time. And of course, make sure that you put down a marker and you ping and you tell everyone that you are coming back, and then they shouldn't, you know, follow with you. Also, make sure that you are saving mobility to come out, or a defensive, or just, yeah. Make sure this is like really, really dangerous when you actually are away from everyone. As soon as you get out to the courtyard, the healer is, you know, I wouldn't say supposed, but like, you know, you can kind of have faith that the healer has you, right? You're under the healer's wings as soon as you actually get out the courtyard. I'm sure that like most healers have their eyes on the tank when they're coming out. So just make sure that when you're going into this room that you're saving some defensive, and also try to like plan ahead of like, you know, if you're using defensive now, you need to make sure that you also have one lined up for when you actually come out in the courtyard, and also like when everything just starts like hammering away. And then also the other thing here is something I'm really bad at, but if you are not sure, it's better just to pull a little bit less. And then just deal with that and go a few more times than just pulling everything as I'm doing. Honestly, I'm a little bit more confident in it. They do jump around, but like our healers seemed like really on point, honestly, in this dungeon. So I was, yes, you can see also here, like the healer like has everyone. Like there's not really much problems whatsoever. And yeah, that's also just in general with this dungeon. You can see we only have a single death, and it's an easy smash by an 18 Waycrest Manor. Our next key that we get invited to is going to be an 18 Atal'Dazar. And of course it's tyrannical this week. Actually it's tyrannical, storming, and raging, which can be... Raging can be problematic in specific pulls and like throughout the dungeon pool, but like honestly, and all over, like it's really not that usually big of a deal. It really becomes a problem at like, you know, the higher keys. Because like that's when the mobs will live longer, like that 20% that they actually are in rage and immune to CC, that duration will be longer just because they have more health. So it's honestly an FX that really first becomes a problem if you go 20 and above. in my experience. Oh, and while storming is very rarely lethal or a huge problem for anyone, if you're playing a tank, if you're a tank meme, you notice it is the I was gonna swear. You know what? Actually, screw it. It's the fucking worst, right? it's you getting bounced up all over the place. You can potentially be knocked around, like into. I remember in season 4 with the criminal derail was actually the worst. The train dungeon right there was the worst time I've ever experienced. We had a week where it was storming and sanguine. I honestly played like. I tried that the train dungeon like once and then I quit for the week. Storming is, as I mentioned before, it's very rarely lethal, but oh my god, it's annoying. It's really frustrating because, as I mentioned, you can't really move that much as a tank if you're having everything like under control. So you kind of just like have to accept that like, this week you'll be kind of bounced around. Another little thing to be cautious about. This boss, honestly, is something I noticed that is kind of tricky on, well, not tricky, but it's kind of interesting on Brewmaster. So you're already dealing with like a stagger, right? So stagger kind of works as, as you probably know already, as a dot. This boss also throws down a really nasty bleed on you. And honestly, I've noticed that you kind of are taking 2 dots at the same time, meaning that you really have to be be cautious of your health bar around here. This is really true for all tanks, but I really first noticed it really on Brewmaster Monk, that all of a sudden my health would just tick down all the way to like 50 and 30%. And if you use a cooldown, a little bit too early, it can honestly maybe screw you up at the end. Everything else in the dungeons goes really smoothly. We have like pretty okay damage. We have an augmentation evoker with us, so we also get like a big chunk of damage reduction. Everything, that's great. And then of course you go up to the last boss, which of course is always the one where everything just kind of falls apart. And what's like really frustrating about this boss is it always seems like it's going to go pretty well in the first like opening here, right? Everyone knows like where to go. It's so much clear, and like everyone's getting stacked and like going away with the boss with all those shadow things. And you're like thinking to yourself, okay, that's great. We did the first cycle. Now here comes the spiders. If we just need to do this perfectly 70 more times, and then we we have this boss. But of course, everything just kind of goes wrong. But it honestly doesn't go wrong. And this is also another frustrating part of this. But in my personal experience, it kind of rarely just falls apart all at once. It's usually just one dies, and that is like enough to tilt the balance, I guess. You can also see here, this is something, I was trying, because I see all the spiders are getting close, I was trying to run to the other corner and then, pinging that they should just go in the corner where they were. And I know that, that can be kind of look like why did I move it? But honestly, you have plenty of time. As soon as she's done that cast, and if you go into the corner, you have plenty of time to to get away, or because she actually moves immediately after she cast it, and she moves fast. So she would have been over me before they even touched her. But it's I'm not even want to blame them, because it's a confusing time, and it's also a stressful moment. So yeah, I could have been a little bit clearer, and maybe even put down a marker and stuff like that to really showcase that I wanted them to stay there. Now at the end here of the second pull, we did actually have it got really scary, because our healer and another DPS is gonna go down. So we're left with the Retribution and the Augmentation Evoker, but we do actually have our Battle Reses going out. But of course our Retribution Paladin then dies and then next to the Augmentation Evoker, because our healer wasn't up to get them. So at this point, it's tyrannical. We still have a few percentage left. It's definitely gonna take some time. So my issue here is how long can my DPSs and my healers survive? Because I need them to kind of eat the soul rend, the bolts, because if no one else is alive, I will be targeted with everything, and that's kind of what will kill me. Usually I'm not in danger at all. I can honestly just solo down, but yeah, I need the others to be alive to tank it up, at least for a good bit. You can see him walking into some spiders, taking some almost lethal damage. And yeah, I'm just sweating away at this boss. I wouldn't even say I hate the boss at all. I think it would be nice if the Soul Rend was kickable, to be honest, if they went back on that change. We do actually finish up our 17 Rise, which is going to be the 4th Mythic Dungeon we do this week, meaning that we, of course, are going to complete our quest. Getting our Heroic Raid Gear, but that Heroic Gear is not gonna be the only celebration here, because I, of course, get something looted here. Oh yeah, I got a mount. I don't know what it is with me and my this luck recently, but yeah, I got this mount right here. Honestly, it's probably pretty cool in an alliance, but as a horde, not really. And then of course we get a item level upgrade on our neck, which is something. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's that stick, and it's gonna boost us up to 471. Now let's take a look at these talent trees. So one thing I got recommended to me was to actually take away improved Touch of Death, which the talent did that I could use Touch of Death on when the enemy had a higher life pool, basically. So yeah, it's I guess it could be useful on tyrannical bosses maybe, but then even then you're just really just taking 1%. You do are saving a bit of time, but probably not worth it where I can get something better. I do end up taking the talent where I boost my allies' healing intake by 4% right here. It is a 2-node talent, but I think 1 node in it is better than nothing, I guess. And yeah, 4% is also quite a lot just for free healing, overall. So yeah, a little bit more defensive to me and my allies, which is really great when I like to pull as big as I do. And I also, on the right here, take up a Shadowboxing Thread, which makes it so my Blackout Kick actually does AoE damage. Is going to hit up to, I believe it's 2 more targets. Insane that I haven't picked this talent before. I can't believe that I actually missed out on it or whatever. It's a huge damage increase, especially when I'm running the build that I am, with the Blackout combo. So my Blackout Kick is high on my rotation. It's basically almost every other ability that I'm using. So having that doing damage to multiple targets, as well as getting buff for all my other fire damage and stuff like that, yeah, insane win. And I actually end up doing a fair bit more damage just with that alone, which is gonna help me severely, a lot with aggro and everything. We do go into a 17 Fall, and Fall is a dungeon we are gonna see a fair times a bit this reset right here. We're even going to go into a 20 later on in this video. For any new tanks pushing into higher content, this boss right here, the first boss in Fall, is a boss that is not really talked about for his tank buster, but it is something that you really want to be aware of, because he does not do it often, but he does it extremely hard. It's basically a huge hit that he only does every other cycle of his leaps and pulls and stuff like that. So it is something you might only going to see maybe even once on a fortified fight, and maybe 2 or 3 times, depending on damage, of course, on a tyrannical. But as you can see coming up right here, what it does is a huge amount of hit, and then it gives you a healing absorb of basically what is half my health, almost 400, half a million health. And if you don't have cooldowns saved up for it and you don't have something healing going on, I know right there I'm saving all my little orbs so I can use Expel Harm and then just immediately clear it, but it's something you need to plan out on, and it is something that will kill you very hard, very fast if you're not aware of it. This time we're actually gonna push my own key, which is a 17 Throne of the Tides. I actually did start off with a 17 Waycrest Manor, which, I already had timed on a 17 when I started, so I just signed up for the keys, and I just completely forgot to change my own key for 4 or 5 dungeons. So finally I changed it up and I got a Throne of the Tides, which is good because the first one we cleared earlier today was just 15. So this is gonna be a nice IO upgrade. So yeah, the dungeon goes pretty smoothly. I just wanted to say, on tyrannical, be also really aware of this guy right here if you are new to tanking, or just, inexperienced with like hierarchies right now, because he is going to slap extremely hard. You need defensive for this totem. This is all that matters. Like, you need just to survive in that window. I also just really want to point out here that if you are dying to it, and if you are using defensive cooldowns for it, it could also just not be your fault, because it is not only is it's a fight on air. That's actually honestly why I like this boss, because it is actually a test on everyone's might, right? So you need DPSs to like enable to like, you know, hit this totem down, but also it's tested on, you know, the tank survivability, as well as the healers, you know, like a bit of like a healing check, right? Can he actually like help the tank and everyone stay alive? So it can be a stressful fight, but honestly I actually really enjoy this boss fight. So we end up 2-chesting it, leading us into a 19th fall. And funny enough, my very dear, lovely friend, Demon Hunter, actually came online, asked me if I wanted to do some keys, and of course, you know, when your friend comes online, you play with them. What I didn't kind of realize before we got started was he's 450. So where I thought I was going to be carried and just, you know, have an easy win, no, it's actually the other way around. I'm here to carry my friends. And that's also a duty you have when you are playing a tank. That's just how it is. The run honestly goes pretty smoothly. My friend do have a few deaths, but you can see on his damage, we have a pretty good geared Retribution Paladin, but my friend is keeping up as like, you know, 450, so shout out to him. But one thing that's really beneficial here is we actually got the Augmentation Evoker, because, you know, my friend can do the damage, and his damage is like, you know, it's not high, but it's you know, because like he's 450, but it's like fine, like he's keeping up and he's being competitive, but it's honestly his health bar and like his defensive that's like kind of lacking when you're so low geared. So having an Augmentation Evoker was a huge plus, and definitely something that really like benefited us here. And then the most insane thing happened. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. That is, if you don't know, that's the cheat death trinket, which basically gives me a whole nother life if I die. It is a game changer when you're playing as a tank. Now, if you're confused why I queued us up for a 20 and then put in the key for a 21 Blackrock hold, me too. I did not realize that it was the 21 that I got, but as soon as I put it in, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna see what happens. Here's another situation example with my computer, where I just have to run in, make sure that I try to tag as much as I can, and then just wait to see if I have aggro like 4 or 5 seconds later. Now, unfortunately, we are not going to time this run. We're actually going to time it with I believe it's just, maybe it's a minute over. So it's honestly, we could have picked up the time. And one thing that I'm just going to flat out be honest here, I make a huge error and I cause a party wipe. That is something I like. You'll see it. It's so embarrassing, honestly. I have never done that mistake before in my life, but there's the first for everything. But another thing, I also just want to point the fingers at everyone else, because that's what we learn from. We learn from pointing at other people and, you know, and just, you're not realizing our own mistakes. But seriously, we do actually have a lot of deaths going around. You can see our Hunter also goes down right there. And also our healer is also gonna like die a few times and actually get broken gear as well doing this. So honestly, it's just gonna be, we have one party wipe that's my cause, and honestly, if we didn't have that, we probably could have timed it. But we also just have a bunch of deaths just kind of just ticking away at the timer. One death that's going to be really huge, like crucial for a timer here is going to be the Death Knight that's going to die to these spirals. He did use Lichborn like to not get feared before that, and he get battle rest by my friend, and then immediately dies to one of those spirals again because he gets like spawned into it, which is a shame, but it's also a huge shame because he's going to stay dead for like half of the fight on a Tyrannical, and we don't Bloodlust this boss because it's honestly not that bad, and I would rather want the Bloodlust for the first pull. But that does mean, because, you know, I didn't plan for someone to die here, that does mean that this boss is gonna take us just that extra, like, amount of time that we really could have used at the end. Of course, it's not the Nazi tank video without me showcasing the stairs to the spiders and how I almost die every single time. I am too fast. You need to be patient, you need to wait for the healer, you need to wait for the healer to be in range, because you will line of sight him around the corner. And these ticks does hurt, and they go up really, really fast. And yeah, it's really dangerous. Just be patient, wait for your healer. Unlucky right there that the knife dance just goes off and just completely annihilates both the healer but also my friend. Another wipe here. Here comes the brain fart. So I decided a really poorly planned. So I like to, in a coordinated group, I honestly like to take these mobs right here and pull them on the boss, because all you need to be worried about is the archers, and you just need to have some CC up for them. And honestly, I have for both of them. Usually people will do enough damage to, like, everything will go down that they can't really get through multiple charges of the jump, and also be a bloodlusting. But why my biggest brain fart is here is that I don't even for a second think about targeting the boss. I am too desperately focused on getting the archers and, like, not getting them, like, you know, use their frontal and their cone, that I just completely let the boss, like, go ham on our party, which is insanely stupid from my part. And it's, as I mentioned before, it's actually incredibly embarrassing, but, you know, I'm here to showcase my mistakes, and this is, like, even on a 21. People still make constant mistakes, and honestly, it's just something to laugh at, honestly. The party does actually, you know, have me as an scapegoat and use me as, you know, kind of like a target group of hate, but that's fine. Honestly, all I just tell them is that, yeah, that's totally my fault, I brain farted, and that's it. Like, they can, you know, tell me that I'm bad and that I think this is a +5 and, like, you know, I'm stupid. That's fine. But we do actually end up going after the boss, and yeah, I'm actually surprised that people didn't leave or, you know, buy into it. I think just because I owned up to the mistake, I think that honestly did a lot to it. So yeah, that's also, like, a huge advice just in general. Just so, like, you know, forget about your ego. Just, it's honestly better just to say it's your bad. Like, even in a scenario where it's honestly not really entirely your fault, it's honestly better just to say, yeah, it's your fault. Just honestly, just tank the responsibility, right? Take aggro for it. That you are a tank after all. This honestly right here, these pulls back to back kind of boosted my confidence, because you can see we are a little bit pressured on time, but we could still time it. We still have, like, plenty amount of time to do it, right? A little bit stressed, but we do actually also have another really crucial death right here that I honestly forgot about this, but yeah, I also think I do, like, a pretty big mistake here. But I mean after here, but our healer is gonna go down to one of these frontals that these little demon guys does this little breath of fire. He's gonna, like, go down, and unfortunately, as I mentioned before, his gear is broken now, which is always really, really fun, meaning that he has to release, go from the second boss, and go out, repair, and then come back in. Now, of course, my friend is a warlock, so we do end up summoning him, but here's probably my biggest mistake. I didn't actually notice, so we summon him, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going, because, like, he's just gonna accept it, and, like, my friend is like, no, like, stop, don't, like, I don't think you should go, and I'm like, no, it's fine, like, he can just come in, and, like, you know, I can survive this. Apparently, you can't, like, enter the dungeon if you go into combat. I actually didn't notice. I wasn't sure about this. So if that's actually true, then this is like kind of my fault, and like we actually lose a lot of time because he has to run all the way back. But honestly, I mean, we can kind of survive it, and we actually end up just completely clearing the whole like fell god area, bat area here without a healer, which is honestly kind of impressive since all the bats kind of fixating around. But our healer just shows up right to the third boss. But let's skip ahead right here because I really need to hurry up. As you can see here, we do have time to do this if we can do the boss in one go. But as you probably can tell, we are not going to get the boss in one go. So just to make sure that we have as much time as we can, I want to go like as fast as I could. But I also kind of did lose a little bit of confidence, so maybe also looking back at this, I maybe should have pulled these guys all the way up to the next. I should just maybe have pulled everything. But I was really unsure because people have just like died off to random things throughout this dungeon, so I was kind of sure that people would just get stunned. You can see the DK actually do get stunned right there, and if you do get stunned with everything pulled, that's basically a death for like most people. On the last boss here, I did notice something that most tanks will notice when they pushing keys. This boss right here does hurt a lot, especially when he put these like bleeds on you. And these bleeds, like the stacking of the bleeds that he does with the tank buster, that will stay throughout the entire fight. Meaning that, since here, my DPSs are not really using their cooldowns on pull, they're waiting for when he comes into the second phase. Which, I mean, it makes sense, but that means that this phase is going to be extremely slow. I'm going to get 4 stacks of bleed on me. That's really going to hurt. Of course, our healer going down here to the blade is not also, like, it's not really beneficial. But, yeah, what can you do? But yeah, with my bleeds and then the Shadow Bolt going off, the healer just simply can't keep up. I mean, no hate to him, like, because, like, I was dibbing a lot. So, of course, we go and we try again. And we honestly, actually, might not have time. It's like really like slim, as you can see in the timer right here, if we can like make it or not. I was really hoping, but my friend does actually go down because the swarm was just not focused, and of course he has low eye levels, so he's just gonna die instant. And again, you can see also the hunter here is also gonna go down due to the swarm. We just simply do not have enough focus on it. And then watch out for the ground effects, people, because we have not only the people just walking into the beams, but I also think some people like got hit by the like the sleeping pool right there. So yeah, be very mindful where you're stepping. I honestly say take your time, but honestly, like, you kind of have to move fast. But honestly, try to stay in the middle of the platform and then just wait till you see what way it's turning. Make sure you have like room to like move, like, so you don't have to move immediately. So you wait a little bit to make sure that you see which way it's actually gonna go. Third time is going to be the charm though, but as I said before, we didn't time it. But I'm still honestly kind of proud of like tanking a 21. I think that's pretty cool, and that I can like push above 20s on this character. Also, got a pretty good score, almost at 2500. And after upgrading my gear a little bit, I actually end up on 474, which is a really high level, and I feel really comfortable on this character at this moment. Which, of course, leads us into our next key, a fall. This time without my friend, just me, back at completely solo pucking. I mentioned this a few times before, but I'm also like, I always want to pull this pack onto the boss, but I also kind of just learned when you are pucking, you need to make your route puck friendly. And the less that they have to deal with is usually always better, as you saw in the Black Rock Hold. Something that can save you time can also be a huge waste of time if it's done incorrectly or just completely stupid, like not targeting the boss. But besides that point, yeah, sometimes it's better to keep it safe. It actually is. I've been liking to do this like little skip right here where you jump past the so you only pull one of the bigger dragons right here. I mean, there's only dragon, the other things are blobs. But one thing that's cool about this is that if you are in some way coordinated, you can, everyone use their personal defenses here, which is actually what's gonna happen. And then you actually have the healer CDs up for the next pull where you're gonna pull the double dragon. Because usually the problem with this is that the healer has to use both. I mean, you have to use your defensive cooldowns, and also the healer has to use the CDs. Meaning that all of a sudden you go into this pack right here, and you also want to pull double because it's efficient, but you don't have any cooldowns for it, which can make it really, really spicy. So skipping the one dragon actually kind of frees up this little pocket of cooldowns. I say that as unfortunately our hunter is going to go down, and a lot of people is going to take a lot of damage here. Warlock is also going down. So maybe the healer actually did not have its cooldowns up, which is a shame. If you are a healer and you see your tank is only pulling one pack and skipping, then try and save your cooldowns because something big is probably coming up. You can see we have 19 deaths, which is a lot. But it's still timeable, which also kind of just showcase, I don't want to say use the word easy, but how forgiving the timer also can be in different dungeons and circumstances. So don't be disheartened if you make mistakes or think that mistakes is it's crucial, don't get me wrong, but it's not, one mistake is usually not that bad. You can see also the one, again, I forgot to target the boss, and yet we weren't even that far away from timing it, right? So don't be too afraid of making mistakes. Our last dungeon of the day is going to be an 18 Darkheart Thicket. I think I mentioned this before, this is definitely my least favorite dungeon. It's not that I hate it, honestly, it's just that I'm kind of indifferent from it, which is honestly more of a crime. It's not, there's nothing really that atrocious about it, but there's nothing really great about it. It's kind of just boring in my opinion. But it's definitely a dungeon that shines in the fact that the difficulty kind of spikes on Tyrannical. These fights can be quite notorious. One thing about this boss, if you're new to tanking, whatever, he does a frontal where he knocks you back. You need to make sure that no one is standing behind you. And when he, knocked you back, he will turn into bear form and cast a little charge. When that charge is done, he will charge where you are standing, meaning that you kind of have to move if you want to dodge it, or else you will hurt really, really bad. Now the thing is, he will actually follow you right up until he casts the actual cast, meaning that you move and then stand still, he will still hit you. So you need to kind of time it, and I also made a mistake in my earlier videos where I would just instantly move or just keep moving, but that I honestly just spins him around and actually puts your melee DPS at risk. So be focus of the cast bar, and then try to time it so you only move at the last second. Of course, another notorious difficult boss fight is going to be the tree boss here in Darkheart Thicket. So he has, the thing that makes him super difficult is he has multiple abilities that will hurt you. Of course, he has the breath that works as first of all, the initial damage is pretty high. Of course, it's not as high as a regular tank buster, but it's still, as you saw, it dropped me down to 75%, 73%. Plus, it leaves you a dot on you that you're just gonna keep on taking damage, and then also as well that he's gonna grab you. I believe he's gonna reduce your armor as well, and then knock you into the ground with one of your other players. Plus, you have all the ads going on you. this fight can be extremely difficult. What I like to do is I want to keep my Celestial Brew up. Celestial Brew, I can't even speak now after. Celestial Brew, my shield, basically. I want to keep my shield up for the breath. To make sure I take the initial damage and then work on self-healing a little bit for the dot. Because I really want to save my bigger cooldowns, such as like Dampen Harm, for the actual grab. Because I actually noticed that that's actually where I've been taking a lot of the damage from. So if I can just, keep the dot and the breath like at bay with my self-healing and save the my cooldown reduction for, my damage reduction for the big grab, I actually noticed that went a lot better. Of course, you still need your healer alive if you want to actually survive this boss. You can see there the Lay of Hand actually comes on in clutch, but I don't believe it's going to be enough. Oh, my bad, it actually is. The Paladin actually completely clutched that with an amazing Lay of Hand right there. So I mentioned before that I really wanted to pull the pack before this one with the one Satyr and then the 2 imps. I wanted to pull them into this caster pack because I could do that on my Demon Hunter really easy with Sigil of Silence. And I can't really do that on other tanks, but instead what I wanted to do is I pull them into the bats right here. And the reason why I'm not scared of the bats, because what they do is they put a poison debuff on you, is that I can just, cleanse poisons. It's definitely another thing I'm really gonna miss. Maybe I should pick up Paladin as the next one. The next tank I'm gonna hit into, 2500 or whatever score. Yeah, so that's something I like to do, and then we just have this pack on its own, which is also a kind of thing is nice because you probably have time for using your cooldowns in between here, so you have to use cooldowns on the pack before, the double pack right there, and then you have a little room here to breathe, and then you go into the boss with cooldowns again.
Yeah.
Now, one thing probably the thing that I hate about Darkheart Thicket is that fact that right after the tree boss, the tank basically doesn't really have much more things to worry about. Because for example, the dragon boss doesn't really do anything. You have to walk out of a cone. But this guy literally doesn't do anything. He auto attacks you and throw a bolt on you or does a little bit of magic damage. But everything else is to your party related. Make sure you take Bloodlust for when he's 50%, because that's kind of where he goes into this enrage mode, where a bunch of pools is gonna drop down and everything. It's just better to save your Bloodlust. You can see one of our DPSs actually go down, but that's not gonna be enough to stop us. So yeah, there you have it, 2500. Keystone Hero has been done. And we also got around 474 eye level. So that kind of just asks the question, what's next? What do we do now? Are we done? Well, I kind of don't feel done. And I also kind of got the impression from you guys that you kind of want to see more than just hitting 2500. As I mentioned multiple times during this season, this series right here. The season has been easy. It's been much faster to get KSM. Keystone Hero, also KSM for that matter. But I'm kind of my idea here was simply just to go after all the portals, right? Let's get all the dungeons done on a 20. I feel hitting 3k is possible, but it's something that's gonna take me time and be kind of notorious because I already done it once. And I kind of know, as I mentioned before, those last numbers, last scores that you need to get. Ooh, that can be a nightmare. But of course, if you guys want to see me suffer, I'm not gonna sit here and be against it, right? Whatever for you guys. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you would like to see. From now, my plan is just to do every dungeon on 20 and then see where we are. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching and take care.